Hello, I'm Gloria Macarenko. Well, it is a time for listening and learning and witnessing history in our city and around the world. This is Our Vancouver. Coming up, tough conversations and lessons about racism in Canada. And a popular school garden program continues to bring children to the soil safely. But first, finding a way to follow a dream during a global pandemic. COVID-19 pushed back the opening of a restaurant on Granville Street. The Cold Tea restaurant was supposed to open in March. Well, it finally did open last week with very different conditions in place. Ron Cheng and Paul Rivas are the owners. Ron, Paul, hello there.
Hi, how are you?
I am doing very well. So Cold Tea, let's start. Where did that name come from, Ron?
Well, the name Cold Tea comes as an homage to our predecessors, Suhang Village, who occupied this building before us. They were known notoriously for serving cold tea, which is code word for beer inside of a teapot. Obviously, we're not going to be doing that, but if guests do come in and ask if we serve cold tea, we actually have a secret cold tea cocktail that we put inside of a teapot.
Oh, the secret. Okay, so if it's not just cold tea, then what will you be serving?
Well, we're a modern Chinese Vietnamese restaurant that serves family-style share plates, all-day dim sum, Chinese barbecue, and it's kind of our, our blend of all our cultures together. So myself and my brother, who's also a co-owner, we're both Chinese. Tien, who's our head chef, also one of the partners, he's Vietnamese, and then we got Paul here, who's Spanish. So pretty much we've blended everything together to create a family-style share plate meal.
Fantastic. Well, I know you've sent in some dishes here as well, but just before we get to the actual food, and I can do a little bit of a tasting here in studio from afar. Paul, how would you describe, like, for someone just coming in for the first time, what were you hoping to sort of achieve with the design and the atmosphere?
Well, the design, we wanted to make it warm and inviting. It was a huge space with really high ceilings. It has the original chandelier from Suhang's, which is amazing. The colors, we try to make it really warm. And we have a giant mural done on the back wall from, you can see behind us, from Stace Ferran, which is a tribute to sort of the Asian tattoos. He's a famous tattoo artist in Vancouver. And we just wanted to make the space really pop.
It really pop. Okay, but how did you have to adapt that space, in terms of the safety requirements for COVID-19? Yeah.
Well, we're fortunate the space is so large and open that we're able to get a perfect distancing for the tables to be 6 feet apart for our guests. So in that way, we're quite fortunate.
Ideal. Okay, well, tell me what you've sent down here, and we can do a little tasting from afar.
Okay, we've sent over the spliff over to you. It's our vegetarian vegan wrap. It's got a side of...
there we go. I was going to hold it up, and we're going to do it. We're cutting over to it. There you go. This is the spliff. Beautiful.
This is the spliff. Yeah, it's really well presented. Very light, refreshing, especially for summer days and spring days.
Salad roll style, kind of, right? That's the
salad roll style.
The rice
100%.
paper around the outside.
Yes.
Gorgeous. You know what? I'm not going to take a bite of that because I think that's fraught with danger in trying to do it and continuing on an interview. So keep going.
Yeah. And then we also have our fried rice. We added a little bit of char siu in there as well. So most of our dishes are vegetarian based, and we've designed the menu where it's easier to just add the protein that you want as opposed to remove and substitute.
That is
and
gorgeous.
The fried rice being one of them.
That is delicious. And it's not as messy. There's not as much potential for mess with this one either. Fantastic. Okay, keep going.
And then we got our vegan pot stickers. So inside of that, we have a nice puree of squash. Most vegetarian pot stickers are filled with just an assortment of different veggies and mushrooms. We decided to make it a little bit different, make it a little bit more filling, sort of like a pierogi style.
Beautiful. I'm just looking. Look at the color there. There we go. Look at the color in that squash. That is absolutely fantastic. Okay, and moving on. Here's something that looks fresh and lovely. What about this salad?
So this is our green papaya salad with tofu, and it's got our house-made soy vinaigrette.
Fantastic. I mean, it's beautiful. I can just get all of these fresh flavors and all this kind of thing as well, or just smelling it here in studio. But I've understand that you've also decided to donate some of your sales to a cause. So tell me about that.
Yeah, so for us, we are opening up this restaurant under some peculiar circumstances, especially during COVID and what's going on with the world today. So we want to do our parts. For us, you know, the majority of us are a minority group. So we wanted to show our support to Black Lives Matter, and we're donating 10% of our sales for the first 2 weeks of our opening to Black Lives Matter Vancouver.
Okay, are you guys feeling confident in this I don't want to say post-COVID, in this COVID era?
Yeah, I think so. I think with our combined knowledge and our experience working in the industry and just the support that we've had so far from family and friends, I feel like, yeah, I think we are on the right track. And with your support as well, the media kind of coming on board and interviewing us at this crazy time, we feel the love from everybody.
Well, here's to cold tea. Ron, Paul, thank you very, very, very much, and all the best to you.
Thank you, Gloria.
Hi, this is Our Vancouver.
All right, it's time for one of our favorite features. This is when we get to showcase a number of the photographs that have been sent in by you, our audience. Celeste Atoll was at Iona Regional Park recently, having a great visit with all the birds found there. Such a great image. Thank you, Celeste. And Harsh Sharma was looking way up at the noctilucent clouds. So wavy, so wonderful. Thank you. Finally, Uliana Ilchenko was walking in North Vancouver near the Cleveland Dam. It looks so peaceful. Thank you so much. And do send us more. You can email them to bcphotos@cbc.ca. That's bcphotos, all one word, bcphotos@cbc.ca. Now, as many people across Metro Vancouver stand up against anti-Black racism, they are also fighting a rise in anti-Asian racism. We have seen a huge increase in violent anti-Asian attacks during the COVID-19 pandemic. But as our Leanne Young found out, it's not the only way the community is being targeted. And a warning, you will hear racist and offensive language in this story. CBC News is airing it to give the full weight and context to what the victim and others experience.
I'm feeling a little anxious.
Everything about this assault and the behavior of the suspect is despicable.
Worried, concerned, sad, and angry.
So I'm more fearful for people that I love, people who look like me.
I'm also frustrated that people think this way. This is 2020.
And that's when the man eventually took out a chisel out of his bag and smashed through the window.
Those are just some of the most violent acts of hatred targeting people who appear to have yellow skin. The East Asian community is on edge. The Chinese community, my community, is facing growing hostility. Subtle microaggressions, you can call them, are taking place daily. There are small words, actions, sometimes even just a look that stings of discrimination. And they're leaving this place that we all call home, feeling like anything but.
Sometimes it's hard to get up and say, oh gosh, I gotta go out today and I hope nobody looks at me the wrong way, you know? And there are days like that. I recently had an incident at a butcher shop. I was lining up outside wearing a mask, and an older Caucasian lady kind of gave me an up and down and walked away from me. I'm the only Asian person that was in line, and then she came back and was very friendly to the two middle-aged Caucasian gentlemen between us. It was subtle enough, but when you have faced racism before in the past, you know what it feels like, and that definitely felt like a moment of it. It felt like a dagger in my heart at the same time.
Something's going on in our world that is going to make us more vulnerable if we're not careful. And it can happen even in a city like Vancouver.
Joshua Crow was out walking his dog Tutu just about a block away from home, in a neighborhood best known for its beaches, shopping, and yoga studios, when a couple passed him and made a comment.
It was to the effect of like, I have a better chance of catching the coronavirus walking past this guy. I felt singled out. I felt judged, right? Somehow I'm a danger to the public. It really puts you on edge. It kind of makes you feel like I can't let my guard down, or something could happen. And I'm not particularly scared for myself. I'm a taller Asian guy. But my wife is, a shorter female Asian woman. Like, some of the worst violence that's happened in this province has happened to women.
And then as we get closer, they start like, look at these people with their fucking masks. What's wrong with society? You Hong, go back to your country. Hong, you fucking chink, go back to your own fucking country.
The victim of another suspected racist attack in Metro Vancouver says she will not back down.
Victim was just someone who was on the bus trying to stand up, be a good Samaritan for two women who were being berated with racist comments.
That's when the suspect is accused of kicking the Good Samaritan and pulling her hair so hard, part of it was torn from her scalp.
Every incident has a ripple effect. Even if you're not the victim this time, it can leave an impression.
The thought of being enclosed in a bus where it's very close and you can't really get out is pretty frightening. So I've been avoiding it if I can.
I feel like I'm on my toes a lot. I walk my dog in the evenings. He is tethered to me, so if I ever have to use both my hands, then I'm ready.
There's the additional burden, and that if something were to happen to me, if other people around me who are bystanders would come and help me out, or if I'd be left alone.
I'm still a little scared, to be honest. Even driving up here, I could feel my heart was racing and I was looking around me.
Lily and her elderly mother were driving home when a white female pedestrian lashed out.
She got really angry. You could see that suddenly she had clenched her fists and her face was red, and she turned and she started walking towards us. And I was absolutely shocked because we hadn't done anything to her. We hadn't said anything. We didn't honk a horn, nothing. We were waiting to turn right onto Lincoln there. And luckily, her friend saw what was happening and literally pulled her away. The only thing that that woman had seen was our Asian faces. That was the only thing. So that was my only conclusion, was that she didn't like the look of my face or my mother's. This is the only home I've ever known. I wouldn't have thought that there would have been anything that would make me feel like I don't belong here, but that did. And that was a small encounter.
Gladys Lamb's elderly mother loved this park. She had a forestry background and would walk these paths every day.
And she also wanted to contribute, and the only way she knew how to contribute at 80 some odd years old was to pick up garbage as she walked, because she just wanted to make things beautiful.
This bench was a gift from her grandchildren. When she died from cancer in February, it became her memorial site. But in May, someone defaced it.
And I walked up and saw, basically it says F China on the bench in, bright black letters.
What was it like for you to see that in that moment?
I was just speechless. I was hurt. I was disappointed. I was hurt because I think my mom just wanted to make this part beautiful, her picking up garbage, and someone made her bench ugly.
The phrase that I've learned is a perpetual foreigner. That it doesn't actually matter what your real story is. You could have lived here for 4 generations. But nobody knows that because they just looked at what you look like, and if you don't look Canadian, they'll assume you're new to the country or that you are a recent immigrant and treat you accordingly, and that's not fair because Canadians aren't defined by the color of their skin.
The impact of a small encounter isn't always so small. It shakes up your sense of being and belonging, and the hurt can run deep. The fear is more of those microaggressions will escalate to clear assault.
I'm Trixie Ling. I'm a Taiwanese Canadian, and I was walking home on the Great Northern Way when I saw a young white man approach me. He said some racist and sexist comments, and I ignored him, and that's when he spat on my face. At that moment, when it landed on my face and I could feel it, it wasn't even my first thought around COVID, obviously, that's disgusting, but it was more just like, the power, like the lack of power it feels when someone spit on your face, the disrespect. I really thought, I'm like, this guy spat on the wrong Asian person. Like, I am going to speak up. I am going to keep him accountable. I feel like silence can be used as a weapon to create more fear, more shame, more apathy. So what we have to counter that is to use our voice and use our story and have the courage to speak out, to listen to other people, to hold a space with other people experiencing racism, and to be able to act together.
So how are you feeling about it?
I feel saddened, hurt, heartbroken, but on the other side, I also feel loved by the support I receive.
I just want, I just want to go back to feeling like we're all one community, and Vancouver's always been good that way.
I think we're going to come out of this together because we're neighbors, because we are kind of stuck in this, and also because it gives us an opportunity to get to know each other's experiences more and to share our experiences, good and bad.
What gives me cause for hope is the fact that I hear lots of people say, this isn't right. This should not be happening. This is 2020. We shouldn't be thinking this of people.
I'll carry that like concern and worry with me for a longer period, but I hope that one day he'll be gone.
Coming up, what a summer without international tourism will look like. Welcome back to Our Vancouver. I'm Gloria Macarenko. Well, it's going to be a much different summer here in BC. International travel plans are on hold. BC companies are trying to find ways to adapt to this very unusual season. Ian Hannamansing has more on that.
In many ways, float planes are a symbol of BC's tourist industry. For the last few weeks, a lot of them have been sitting idle, but one airline is actually expanding its schedule. It's hoping to attract BCers who had been planning to travel internationally. As we discovered, the tourist industry here this summer is filled with high hopes and reasonable expectations. There is a new pre-flight safety routine on Harbour Air. A meticulous scrub down of anything a passenger might touch. Right from check-in, it's clear pandemic flying is different.
Do you guys all have masks and gloves with you? No. Okay, perfect.
But the mandatory masks and gloves aren't just designed to reduce the risk of infection. They're also a strategy to increase confidence in flying. And in terms of wearing a mask and fewer people sitting in there, how did that go?
Yeah, it was okay. There are only 3 other people. Usually they require we wear gloves as well.
Just a routine flight?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Harbour Air has been in business for almost 4 decades and says in a normal year it flies about 500,000 passengers on its fleet of 40 seaplanes. But in March, it shut down for a week, then restarted one route as an essential service.
Okay, welcome aboard everyone. My name is Corey.
This month, it's taking a shot at expanding its schedule, hoping more people are ready to fly.
We're expecting slowly for people to start being comfortable and come back. The local leisure, we're hoping passengers will explore BC. It's beautiful in our own province, and we have a way to get them to some unique destinations.
The question for Harbour Air isn't just how many people are going to sit on these planes, but it's also, will they have places to go? The company is advertising its newly expanded schedule under the banner BC Holiday, so they need the rest of the tourist sector to open up as well. Take Whistler, for example. The resort has been closed since March. At this time of year, you'd usually see hikers and cyclists everywhere. And so, for many people here, the reopening earlier this week of the resort's biggest hotel, the Fairmont Chateau Whistler,
Should I do mum first? Okay.
complete with guest temperatures checked on arrival, is a sign of hope.
You know, we're cautiously optimistic.
The hotel's director says COVID has changed almost everything, from fewer seats and more plexiglass at the restaurants to keeping rooms empty for 2 days after checkout. The hotel estimates that downtime means they'll only be able to offer 30 to 50% of their normal capacity, but they're predicting pretty well all of those available rooms will be occupied.
It's the pace of bookings that are coming in now. It's the fact that we have a lot of regular clientele. And then, while we can't receive guests internationally and from the US and so on, neither can BC residents travel anywhere. So we believe that all of the BC residents are busy thinking right now, well, what am I going to do for the summer? What is our vacation going to be this year?
But it's a really positive sign that they're seeing that there's confidence in the travel market. That people.
The tourism management program at the BC Institute of Technology has been tracking trends in the province.
I think people are feeling more confident, and also in British Columbia we're lucky, we have a low infection rate of new infections, and so people are feeling more comfortable that they can start doing behaviors that we couldn't have done a couple of months ago.
But like the hotel, Harbour Air's best-case scenario is well below normal. With fewer flights than last summer and keeping more seats empty on bigger planes, they expect about 20 to 30% of the sales they had last year.
That's what we're projecting right now. We're hoping it's better. We hope things open up and people become comfortable, but we need to be cautious.
Now, it's an understatement to say that school just isn't the same since COVID-19. Even though some students are returning, it just looks and it feels different. And specialty programs have also had to adapt. Sprouting Chefs is a kitchen garden program in Burnaby elementary schools. And Barb Koyanagi-McMahon is the founder. Barb, hello there.
Hi there.
So just describe, where are you right now?
So I'm sitting in front of the Forest Grove School Garden.
Okay, Forest Grove in Burnaby. And what have you got growing there?
So right behind me, I have a really important crop that a lot of your viewers might recognize. It's garlic. And we're talking about garlic in terms of its immunity boosting effects with the kids right now.
Okay, and what else do you grow there?
We have a huge variety of crops. We have some perennial crops like our sage and our lavender. We have a ton of kale. And we have a really cool crop over here, asparagus, which a lot of people about.
Fantastic. Yeah. I mean, everything just looks so lush and green where you are right now. The weather's been optimal, hasn't it, with the sun and then the rain and all the rest. But just tell us about your program. What do the students at Sprouting Chefs do?
So we have a very holistic type of program where we incorporate mindfulness into our garden and kitchen activities. So we'll talk about patience when you're growing seeds and courage when you're holding a knife. And it's all the way through the year. So I will work with kids with mindfulness activities about gratitude and peace in the fall. We'll plant the whole garden out in the spring. And then we also have an after-school program that includes a garden club that helps maintain the space, and after-school cooking classes where the kids come up and harvest from the school.
All right. It sounds like you've got a lot to offer. It sounds like it'd be fun for the kids, but how have you had to adapt everything since COVID-19 hit?
It was a sad day coming up here in early April when I was supposed to be working with all the classes. And we had to make the decision about whether or not to go ahead and plant the garden as normal or shift a little bit. And with the discussion with the principal at the time, one of the things that we really felt was important was community and keeping the community connected to something positive like this space. So it was at that point we decided that I would go ahead and plant all the seeds and grow food. Instead of it being an educational piece, that it would be a place that we would provide food for those people in the community that needed it at the time. So we've been able to harvest twice and give back to 9 families food growing from.
Lovely, lovely. So no summer camps this year. What are you hoping you are going to be able to continue doing in the garden?
We will continue growing food through the summer like we usually do. We pass it on to the garden club families to take care of for us. And we'll be doing some work bees showing how to harvest and how to grow food at your own home through the summer, twice in July and twice in August doing that. But the rest of the time, it'll be the community that takes over it, and it will become a place for them to feel a connection to nature.
No, that's neat. So what have you heard from some of the kids, in terms of the garden still being there for them now?
I think they were really happy to be back, but the question has been with some of them about the cooking classes. They really do miss that. But we've been having conversations about anxiety and ways that we can manage our anxiety with things like lavender and lemon balm, things like building our immune system and our resiliency by eating well and including all the food that they have here. And for me, it's also been teaching them about having hope still, and that when we plant seeds in a garden, it's a hope for that there's going to be a better tomorrow. So we talk about with them as well, that they're part of that change and that positive movement.
Barb, it all sounds wonderful, especially how you've all been able to adapt. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having us on here. Very important. And check out our GoFundMe page. It's going to launch today.
Ready, Mom? 1, 2, 3. Hi, we're the Little and Rowe family, and this is Our Vancouver.
I love.
Concerts and events have been canceled or gone online since the pandemic hit. And if you are outdoorsy and you love kayaking, Deep Cove Kayaks have been hosting virtual racing events. People do their sprint themselves, they submit the time, and the race is revealed on Tuesday nights. Where there's a will, there is a way. You can check the website for details. And CBC is proud to sponsor the Indian Summer Festival. Its next big event is in July on the 11th. It's a virtual cooking class with celebrity chef Vikram Vij. He's hosting it from his home.
Hey, I'm Grant Lawrence from CBC Music, coming to you from home, where over the past few weeks I've been sharing with you the best of Quarantunes, songs and videos that Canadian musicians have been creating from home. This week, I want to focus in on one particular artist who is creating some amazing music. Her name is Dominique Fils-Aimé.
The way you change your heart when you change your mind makes you change your ways with me. See, I cannot deny it. Everything you do is blindsiding me, like someone pulled the trigger. Did I pull the trigger?
That is Dominique Fils-Aimé performing at the gala for last year's Polaris Music Prize, for which she was shortlisted for her sophomore album, Stay Tuned. It's the second record in a trilogy that explores the history of African American music, from the slave songs of the 19th century to the hip-hop of the 21st. And while Stay Tuned explored jazz, her first album dug deep into early roots.
You're now nameless and shapeless and fair. I'm not free from what you want from me. I'm not. I just cannot step out, cannot step away from the light.
From her 2018 debut album, that was Nameless, from Dominique Fils-Aimé. Ever since the pandemic struck, Dominique has been keeping herself busy. She's taken part in the Juno's 365 Virtual Songwriter Circle. She's also taken to the streets and been an active participant in the Black Lives Matter protests in Montreal. And she's been posting incredible solo performances from her home, like this one.
No, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. Darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, you stand by me. Oh, stand by me.
Wow. From her home in Montreal, that was Dominique Fils-Aimé with a stunning a cappella version of the Ben E. King classic, Stand By Me. You can find more of Dominique's home performances on her YouTube channel or on Instagram. Stand By Me by Dominique Fils-Aimé is the song that you need to add to your Quarantunes playlist for this week. Also, go and track down those albums of hers as well, Nameless and Stay Tuned, exploring the history of African American music through the centuries. I'm Grant Lawrence from CBC Music. I'll check in with you again next week.
Coming up, wisdom on racial equality from 102-year-old Mozart Mims. Welcome back to Our Vancouver. I'm Gloria Macarenko. Now, if you're looking to gain a little wisdom on racial equality, Mozart Mims is a good man to listen to. He was born in Kentucky just before the end of the First World War. By the time he moved to Vancouver in the early 1950s, he had served in the U.S. Army, graduated university, and built a successful railroad career. Today, he's 102 years old and as sharp as ever.
Grew up in Allensville, and I went to school in Elton, Kentucky. That was the county seat to a high school. And then I moved to Nashville with my brother. I grew up in segregation. I grew up as a segregated kid. But we had our own churches, our own schools and everything, and we were divided. We each went our own way. I never thought I'd get this old, you know. When my grandmother had her 80th birthday, we thought she was a relic. And now the people are like me, I'm 102, and here I am. I'm kind of glad that I'm in Canada now, because it's not very good in the United States. That's my home country. I'm still in America. And I hate to see the way things are, but it's divided now. See, it used to be united. The Democrats and the Republicans were united, and they worked together. But now with this president that I have now, he is a divider. He doesn't like to have unity. I hope it gets better, but I don't know. It seems to be getting worse. Because in the last few days, they've had all this killing, and they've been marching and everything, and so I don't know what's going to happen now. We just have to wait and see. Well, I'd like to see change. I would like to see the two parties get together. Everybody. I'd like to see the blacks and the whites get together. But you've always had this division, and I think you'll always have it. The black-white thing. The dark race seems to be an item to themselves. And so many white don't want to mix with the dark. But you have unity. You need these people to get together. I don't know how much longer I'll live, but I've seen a lot. I've seen good times and I've seen bad times. What can I do now? And just live the best life you can. And that's what I did.
Not a lot of people can match Dutch Robinson's career. In the 60s and 70s, he was part of the Ohio Players and wrote much of their first 3 albums. And that earned him a spot in the R&B Hall of Fame. Dutch Robinson is now living in Vancouver. Here's his song. It's called One.
We need each other. They're trying to divide us. I don't care what color you are, what religion you are, what nationality. I want you to remember that we are one. We are one.
You don't know what you're missing. There are so many different
colors and religions, and to one God all this love they are given. We're all the same, we just call them by a different name. Peace and love's what we're after. If we could only share a little more laughter, all for one we could get what we're after. We're all the same, we just call them by a different name. Think of one, it's incredible, the sound of one, and together we can get things done. Generate the power of the sun. Oh, one, 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 we are one. Attitude can control things. When you bring the wrong one with you, you can blow things. The one I know wants to deal with your mood swings. We're all the same, but I will share your pain. We are one, it's incredible, the sound of one, and together we can get things done. Generate the power of the sun. Oh, one, 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 we are one. Whoa, 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 yeah. It could be so peaceful if we could stand as one, as one, as one. Thank you, CDC. Think one. Think one.
Coming up, what Canadian kids should know about Black Lives Matter. You are watching Our Vancouver. I'm Gloria Macarenko. Well, the Black Lives Matter movement has been front and center, and it's a cause with a long history. CBC Kids News contributor Elijah Sandiford digs in.
The Black Lives Matter movement is everywhere right now. You've probably been hearing about it for years. It's all because the killing of unarmed Black people continues to happen. And it's really caught on since George Floyd died in police custody. There have been riots and protests all over the US and even here in Canada. These are massive demonstrations. So let's see if we can get some more insight into what Black Lives Matter is and how it relates to you and me.
Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter!
My name is Jacob Calendar Prasad. As of Sunday, I became the lead organizer of Black Alliance and the protest movement that we've been doing in Vancouver.
Obviously, we're talking to a lot of kids right now. How would you explain Black Lives Matter?
If you look like me and you feel a certain pain sometimes towards what your friends say, and you wonder what's going on in the world, and you wonder why these effects are happening on the news from officers in the States, we are trying to imply that your life matters.
The Black Lives Matter movement started in the US. So why do you feel that it's important for Canadians to be involved in it?
Black Lives Matter in the US is 100% needed. the United States and their communities, they are getting people, killing them every single day. They're having racial injustice against them from police. And so when we say Black Lives Matter, we all believe in that word, Black Lives Matter, that we're so very passionate about that. It's time to not only just address that issue, but address that there are so many other things that Canadians, people of color, we deal with on a social basis, on a daily basis. So young people can now get to understand in a better way, in an easier way, what we're dealing with in 2020.
Now that we have some perspective from someone on the ground at the protest, let's take a look at how we got here. What do you think differentiates Black Lives Matter, if anything, from Black activists in the past?
We can think of it almost as a social media moment. You know, I know, for example, Black Lives Matter Toronto, they would send out Facebook messages, right? Meet us at the corner of Yonge and Bloor, and we're gonna have a rally there. If we look at the nature of today's marches, the people in the marches, you see it's a multi-racial, multi-ethnic moment. Whereas you think of the civil rights movement in the 60s, it was predominantly Black people marching.
As a historian, what do you think the key bits of history that Canadian kids should know to help them better understand Black Lives Matter today?
Between 1960, let's say 1964 and 1972, we have the destruction, again, another destruction of Africville in Nova Scotia. Beautiful, beautiful piece of real estate, oceanfront estate, destroyed and taken over by the city. And Black people moved into public housing. And of course, that has had tragic consequences. Then another key moment is the Sir George William University computer riot in 1969 in Montreal, right here in Canada, where Black students who were protesting the low marks that they were receiving, these were, you know, very smart students, they were deported, they were jailed, spent years in jail, or were thrown from the schools, were expelled from the schools. Of course, there's a civil rights movement. We think of the marches of Martin Luther King, of Malcolm X, of, you know, Rosa Parks. Kids were a big part of this movement. We talk about the students sitting, we talk about the Kids March in Birmingham. Children as young as 7 years old participated in those marches.
What would you tell Black kids who are worried or scared about their future?
You know, that's a good question, and perhaps it's the most important question in our interview, Elijah. The power is within us. So the fist symbolizes that power that's within us, especially when we organize with other folks, especially when we engage in collective action.
The massive protests that are ongoing may have been sparked from the death of George Floyd, but they are also a result of decades of racial injustice, Black inequality, and police brutality. Black Lives Matter is a movement that seeks to change that, not only in the US, but also in Canada and across the globe. Hopefully you guys learned something, and if you did, share your thoughts at CBC Kids News at cbc.ca. I'm Elijah Sandyford for CBC Kids News. Peace.
Well, CBC Vancouver is lucky to have two award-winning photojournalists on staff. Ben Nelms and Maggie McPherson capture life in our city in a unique way. So here are some of the images from this week. And that's all for Our Vancouver this week. I hope you'll join me weekday afternoons on CBC Radio 1 for On the Coast. Goodbye for now.